Welcome to the Bite Size Brilliance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Darley, and today we're going to talk a little bit about motivation. What would happen if the advice that's meant to motivate you actually does the opposite? So it's real common in the business world when you are laying out goals, when you're trying to find your passion or your purpose, when you are trying to figure out whether you should engage or a project or not, right? The question that gets asked a lot is why. Simon Sinek has a great TED talk or talk on this about find your why. And that is really great advice. However, why, and in the purpose of what's your purpose, your passion, your motivation, why you want to do this thing, this goal, this project, it can have an undesirable response. So, for example, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know I do something very unique called the three brain system. I call it my bespoke brain system. And this takes a look at your life, your problems, your desires, and runs it through a three-tiered system of survival, emotion, logic. Now, when somebody says, figure out your why, that is great logical advice. And when you answer the questions of why do I want this, you're tapping into your emotional brain, which is the piece of your identity that is having to do with idealism, creativity, imagination, altruism. And so you're coming up with this big impact or your motivation. But then you have the survival brain, which is actually your default brain. This is your unconscious. It's one level deeper than your subconscious, and it's the one that rules the show. It will hijack the other pieces and take over because it is the priority. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this survival brain wants to make sure you have food and shelter, that you have a tribe, a mate for reproduction, and it kicks off your fight, flight, freeze response. And that is so powerful that if you have a why, let's say, for example, I want to make $6 million and then I want to start this massive global charity. I'll speak about this charity. I'll do this. And you are just someone who's working a 9 to 5 job, not even making six figures. But you have this why, you have this dream about why you want to make six figures, and that's totally valid and doable and fantastic. But there's a piece of you that's going, you don't know how to do that. You've never reached that. It's completely scary. It would require you to do so many things that you don't know how to do, to be visible, to be vulnerable. And your survival brain is going to shut that down because it's really uncomfortable and it would require expansion in a way that you have not stretched yourself before. And if you don't know that this process is going on underneath the surface, then it shows up as sabotages, anger, frustration. You're like, I have this really passionate purpose, this really big why, but I just can't seem to get there. And that, my friends, is one reason why you can't get there, is because you've created this inner conflict in your brain about what you want to do. Your higher self has this desire, and what your base self, I hesitate to say the word lower self, but it's your survival self, feels about what's safe or possible for you to have, do, or achieve. And if that controlling piece of you doesn't feel that something is safe or possible for you to have, do, achieve, it basically puts the kibosh on anything that you would try to do above and beyond your comfort level without specific intention. So you can't override the override, okay? And that's where your logical brain is useful. And it is about learning to work past the fear, but also understanding the why you created for yourself may not be strong enough to motivate you into action. So, for example, I had this client who had been at their job for a while. They were up for a promotion. They did not get the promotion, and they were all up in their feels about it. They were a mix of hurt, disappointed, angry, bitter. And so I asked this client, why did you actually want this promotion? What was your why? What's your reasoning for that? And this is what they told me. They said, I want the title, I want the status, I want the pay raise, I want the benefits, I want the recognition. So this person went on to list what would be considered ego based traits or survival based traits. The money, because that's how we get the things. The status, if you're a higher status in your tribe, you're less likely to come to harm or be exiled, right? Leadership is considered power to your survival brain. So she was listing off all of these reasons about why this person wanted to be at the top. And I had to point out, okay, these are great reasons. These are wonderful reasons. But at no point did you actually go, because I enjoy leading, because I enjoy doing this work, because this work matters to me, because I have really great ideas, because I think I can take this department into a new direction. I can do some great things with the company. None of that was there, right? So when you point out your why, and some of the motivations behind your why, it can help you tease out, do I want this for ego or survival or status? Or do I want this because it's actually a good fit for me? Because I would enjoy it, because I would have fun at it, because I'm great at it and I could really push it forward. So, when you don't take the steps to tease some of that stuff out, you can easily launch yourself into these promotions, into these jobs or projects that don't actually fit you because your why was not really a good match for you. You did the steps, you answered the questions, but that motivating factor, okay, so you got the job, but if you only did it for these ego or survival reasons and you're not passionate about that, this is where you see burnout pop up really fast. This is where you get disenchanted, disillusioned, where you start to resent where you are because the why was not a good fit, but you didn't realize it. It sounded good at the moment. And sometimes your why can help you determine, is something just a wish or is it really a goal, a passion, or purpose? So, for example, there was an article I read in Entrepreneur magazine and it was talking about Steve Jobs, but the example the reporter used was about running a marathon. You could set the goal to run a marathon, but if that is a goal and it's a true goal, then first you have to figure out your why, of course, that's standard. Why do I want to run the marathon? Is it for my health or to get fit or because every other person in the neighborhood does it or because I want to win a trophy or a medal, right? Figure out what your why is. But you have to go next step beyond that is, am I willing to do the work to have the thing? So, the work of a marathon is getting up really early and running and continuing to do that when it's cold and dark and rainy and it sucks outside, or when your muscles hurt, when you're busy, you had to work overtime at your job and you didn't run before work. So, are you going to run after work? And you'll find out really fast if your air quote goal is actually a wish and if your why wasn't strong enough to overcome your survival brain who wants some safety and comfort. Because going out at dark 30 to run in the snow is not very comfortable. It can be painful. When your muscles are sore, it's painful. And that survival brain is hardwired to take you away from pain and toward pleasure. So if you don't have a strong why, like for example, dad died of a heart attack at 45 and I'm 39, so I need to get my butt in gear and get healthy, right? Because if your why isn't really strong, then you have a wish, not a goal. Or your why, if your why is a little weak, then it's so easy for your survival brain to sabotage it, override it, and you just sit on the couch. Nothing changes. So, this is why motivation advice, although well meaning, may not be enough for you if you don't know how to work with your brain instead of against it. So, this is what I do with my clients is I teach them the bespoke brain system on how to look at their life, their goals, their desires, their problems, their preferences on these three different levels and show them why they were able to get this, but why this has felt hard or uncomfortable or painful. And we create a plan to simplify, stabilize, strategize to move you forward that works with your brain's natural design instead of against it. So, if you would like to have a part of that goodness for yourself, I only do private one to one clients, and you can set up a free phone consultation to learn more about how this system can help you overcome whatever's going on in your life to problem solve in a completely unique way that works with the way you naturally think, act, and feel. So head over to aprildarley.com. On the booking tab, you can set up a time that works for you, and I would love to help you explore your brain a little better. Until next week, my friends, goodbye.